Hello guys, welcome to a Trading Parrot. I'm starting to see a lot of people talking about a Wyckoff distribution and everybody becoming conscious of how low can we go with this correction. And at the same time, we are starting to see the 4-hour time frame preparing for a layer 2 breakout. All of this, if you have a look under the carpet, you're gonna see that in the order book, orders are accumulating, the bidding is becoming very intense. We need to look into the situation and assess whether it's still possible that we can hit the next resistance located at RSI 63. I'll give you an update on my short, my long. Don't miss the summary at the end of the video and have a look at the timestamps to guide you through all this content-dense analysis. Guys, in just an hour and a half, we're going to do a private session TA covering the coins that you request as part of the community. All you have to do is join the elite altcoin trader tier in my Patreon. And remember, if you got hit and you lost some funds during the liquidation on Friday, you can take advantage of taking back a little bit of that if you use the link in the description to sign up on 2bit. There is a pool of $100,000. Looking at the news on ChatGPT, I'm almost convinced to let ChatGPT go. I just still have no better alternative for the best news. But as you can see, everything is either moderate bullish or bearish, and that by itself tends to be a bullish alpha. We got a 4 out of 10 with the Bitcoin OG transfers, $2,000 to 51 wallets are whales looking to dump. Then the 6 out of 10 Bitcoin whale activity reflects sustained confidence as 3.9 billion Bitcoin transfers trigger 620 million in liquidations. I don't know how that is bullish, by the way. 5 out of 10 neutral to slightly bearish. How deep could Bitcoin crash if bulls fail to defend 107 to 110? And I think that is the main concern at the moment that we really need to talk about today. I'm starting to give a look at Perplexity in their browser comment. I'm pleasantly surprised how it works particularly well with everything to do with finance, not to mention that it can actually browse your charts, multiple tabs, make a summary, and even change things on the website in an interactive way. Pretty cool. I'm gonna leave a link down below if you wanna join Perplexity, because I believe you need an invite to be able to join. I have to say, I feel like I finally found something that is good actually for finance and real-time news and events. Still, we got 2 out of 3 that are bearish. The ETFs hit by 750 outflows on the 14th. Bitcoin needs fresh catalyst to avoid deeper correction. That's coming from Glassnode and Cointelegraph. That's a 4 out of 10. And 7 out of 10, which is bullish, the Bitcoin whale activity shows sustained confidence despite volatility. It's probably coming from the same article. And you can see that today on crypto Twitter, there's plenty of Wyckoff patterns that are really haunting people. It does look like a Wyckoff pattern, particularly because we have higher highs, but still in a very tight range. It seems to be like we are transitioning from phase C to D. In this other version from Ivan on Tech, you can see that he agrees that we are kind of in the early phase D and potentially making a move higher into 115 to then do continuation and finally take the lows of the phase B and end up somewhere around 100, if not 98K, somewhere around those numbers. Remember, in this channel, we never marry any outcome. We never know where the price is gonna go. I already have a short with an average at 122.5, which I'm protecting with a stop loss in case Bitcoin wants to invalidate the Wyckoff distribution and go for a new liquidation of the highs. I am risk-free against that. I still take a small profit if that happens against my short. What I'm currently focusing on is on taking a long. And in the rest of the video, I'm going to explain what long I'm still willing to take, what size, at what price, and why. Until a significant discount appears on the market to stimulate buying, potential growth will be sluggish, followed by a dump at new all-time highs. On futures, after long positions are reduced by 10 billion, traders will start returning when the price becomes attractive for entry again, and when enough short positions accumulate that can be used to pump the price. I think we already have a ton of shorts. Today we have a spike in the bidding activity, and that's why I'm kind of looking for a long in the short term. We need to acknowledge as well the positioning of all the liquidity pools from liquidations. Yes, on the lower end below 100k into, let's say, 85k, there is a big cluster there. There is still these lucky bastards that have their liquidity there. Probably my liquidity is somewhere between here and 140. So if price wants to go there, I might need to re-enter with a short from higher, because I'm still very attracted to hitting this liquidity on the lower end eventually. I'm not saying next. On-chain college is saying this is not what Bitcoin bull cycle tops normally looks like. You can see in here the extreme levels of all these models hitting, and I completely agree that the models are still not saying it's the end of the market, but you need to also acknowledge that we are transitioning to a different nature of asset, and with that, many of these models are gonna need to be adjusted, normalized for the new conditions to still call for an end of the market if we get one. Every single model eventually breaks. You are not allowed to love forever unconditional any single model. If you do that, you're thinking like a beginner, not like a good trader. The problem with these people is that they're fully in love. Talk about plan B. There is a long list of dudes that love a model, and because it has worked twice in a row, they have a huge following of 500,000 to 1 million people that then later get wrecked because their model expires. Who would have thought that, right? I do have my own models, and my own models are always referred to, it's been working so far, eventually could break, put one leg here and one leg there, and trade it with that uncertainty. Can you? PayPal becomes the richest company on earth with 300 trillion in assets for about 20 minutes, until Paxos burns the 300 trillion Pi USD stable coins it just mint. What a sneaky mistake. Certainly it will never ever happen in the future. I'm absolutely confident that this will never ever happen. Will it? 1,000 BTC stuck at 110k, Martin is saying in here on Binance Futures. We'll look into that order book and we'll see how heated is the demand underneath the price and where it's distributed. We need to see with big detail to make decisions. BTC H4 continue by Roman. I believe our bounce double bottom failed and is now turning into a consolidation descending triangle for lower, not seeing any other signs of reversal, and trend is currently down. You get a lot of anxiety as a trader thinking, who's gonna be right? The trading parrot, Roman, this other dude, who's right? Who's wrong? Stop thinking like that. No one needs to be right to make money in trading. Oh yeah, you need to have a plan. Your plan needs to tackle the uncertainty. But how? How? Well, think about it. Small position in here looking for a long. If we join the party with all these whales that are increasing their bid today and we go for the low-hanging fruit at 117, we lock down that profit with a stop loss break even. We trail it. We are risk-free. If we are wrong, we already have a paying first plan in place. We already know where we could go lower if we go there to get a decent bounce. And at that point, we are ready to repair somehow, still with risk management, what we were wrong. So you put yourself in a situation where there is no need to be right on the first hit. You can be right on the second or on the third. There is an indicator called the Bitcoin Unified Sentiment Index that Axel is here showing us. It seems to be aggregating the fear and greed index, CoinGecko's up and down boats, and rolling normalization layer that aligns with a 1-year window. All of this fluctuates between minus 100 and 100, and you get periods of extreme bullish and extreme bearish. Currently, the sentiment is in an extreme bearish zone, similar to stress points seen in 2024 and 2025. Investors are defensive, participation low, and risk appetite depressed, despite relatively stable BTC prices around cycle highs. Ali is saying, be honest. Does this setup look like 250,000 Bitcoin BTC by December? And I agree, I've been following the period of bearish divergences on the weekly for years, and I was looking for a lower low. We got that one, and then we were speculating we were gonna get a lower low in here as well. So far it's playing by the book, so it's very difficult for me to tell you, oh yeah, I'm absolutely convinced that Q1 and Q2 are gonna be massive for Bitcoin. For that, Bitcoin really first needs to break out from a level of 70, around that area there. I think it was 67, break 130K, hold there on a weekly basis. So there's a lot of ifs. So what are you gonna do, Trading Parrot? Are you gonna wait until we close at 130 and then you're gonna buy? No, I say 1,000 times, we don't trade breakouts. We accumulate at areas of fear, we accumulate at areas of weakness. When there's blood on the streets, we lock in with break even and we rally into that uncertainty already with a pocket in profit, with a small profit, but risk free. If we do that, good for you, you rally and you're part of that. If we don't do it, you take a small profit. That, my friend, is the key of trader thinking. That is a plan, that is logic, that is sustained wins. It doesn't go better than that, my friend. Funding rates turn negative. This usually happens at bottoms. Funding rates can be negative, but they can remain negative, right? So you can have a low in here and then a lower low. That proves your confidence. There are periods during the dumpy beginning of a bear market with funding rates can remain negative a lot of time and put new lows and new lows. So don't use this signal as I found finally the answer to everything, right? If you put these negative funding rates together with other things, that's a good idea. And this post from Super Bro proves one of my points, which is you always have a bearish and a bullish scenario, right? We could complete this double bottom with a neck at 117. We talked about that yesterday, and we can go into 121. Am I not looking for a long around here? Yes, I am. Any new low in here will be fantastic to catch the liquidity that has formed since the 9th of October into today. We never went slightly lower. That at 108, 109, around those levels could be a liquidity sweep that can still make this Adam Eve or double bottom hit 117, break the neckline and go into 121 to the scene of the crime of Friday. That is doable and we can be part of that. And if it doesn't play out, we don't need to take a loss. Neither with my short from 122, if this plays out and it goes into 107 and 6, we could consider decreasing the size of our short-term take partial profits. Why not? Huge. 600 million insider whale is closing their shorts, Kyle Chase is saying in this tweet. And Joe is saying that Bitcoin is now down 3% this month. We're in October, guys, and we are in negative. That has never happened. Hey, hold on the horses. These are the colors of the closing price on the monthly, right? October 2024, at some point during October, we were 12% down in a more bullish year than the topping one, and we ended up closing in October 9% up, just before a 39% up. So you see this 3%, and we're halfway through October. Can we repair that? Well, we did repair it in October in 2024, more or less around the middle of the month. It is repairable. We can still play that game and see if it plays out, not necessarily taking a loss. Now, what happens if we close October at -3 or at -10? Can that happen? Well, it has happened, as you can see here, 2011, 2012, 2014, 2018. In 2012, we closed in the negative, and then still we have a green November. Although on 2011 and 2018, after a red October, we also got a red November. So the trend is that October typically closes in green, particularly when it comes to the recent years. Earlier ages of Bitcoin were a bit more crazy for Octobers. Brett is saying BTC against gold looks like a textbook head and shoulders is playing out on the weekly. And if we go to my ratio charts of Bitcoin against gold, you can see where Bitcoin is rallying against gold, like in the full bull market, and eventually it breaks down a trend line of support. Sometimes you get a retest. For example, in here, this cycle, you didn't get a retest, you just dump below the trend line. On this particular cycle, you broke, you had a retest. That was the COVID actually. On 2021, you broke and went down. And on this cycle, we are already below it. This is particularly on the weekly time frame. We can see this also on the monthly. And I have added on the lower end gold in here that is having the best rally ever with the highest RSI monthly overbought level in history. And you can see every single cycle how we break below against gold on the monthly. And where we are at the moment is we already retest the breakdown and we are already with an RSI below that level. But there is a bunch of things that are very different going on in here, which I probably want to cover in a separate video talking about the ratios, not just against the gold, but against NASDAQ, Federal Reserve balance sheet, VIX. We're going to see how we are doing with Bitcoin against all those other assets in ratio charts. You're going to want to hit your head against the wall, not understanding why this channel still doesn't have 1 million followers. The amount of alpha, you're not going to find it anywhere, guys. And More Crypto Online is saying the market looks dead, okay? Not reading anything that he has said. Let me guess, maybe he's a bit bullish? Yep, I am a little bit bullish as well. I'm not like, oh my God, the bull market is starting. No, I'm not stupid. But after a 20 billion liquidation, not going to at least the scene of the crime or taking some of the liquidity of the excessive shorts, to me sounds like we have to do it now or maybe slightly later, but we have to take care of that, right? We are market makers, or at least our mentality is like that, which historically means resurrection candle incoming. Stay above 107.5 and anything is possible. Yeah, I kind of agree with that. Reflection is asking, are you scared about this price action on the monthly? Look at this, liquidity sweep, downside into bear market, liquidity sweep. Yeah, we also got one here, my friend. And this was about to look like a liquidity sweep as well before the green candle. So it's never that clear when you are there. It's always clear post a year where you can see it and you say, yeah, of course, that was the end of the bull market. But this could end up with an October in the green, looking like this one, and suddenly Reflection deletes his own post. Let's look at the questions from my community. We got 10 answers today. Likelihood that we get below 110 on the short term, given the presence of the apparent dynamic buying walls at 110. Well, there is a chance, and I'm gonna not show you only the buying wall. I'm gonna show you in the past month how many times that buying wall failed to hold the price. And indeed, in the past month, believe it or not, Eric, every time we dump, there was a huge buying wall. And guess who got liquidated? That buying wall. Yes, it was pretty much populated by retail betting that this low was going to hold, and it didn't. Got liquidated once, twice, and this could be the third time. So although I am wanting some exposure to the upside potential from slightly below 110, I'm not necessarily fully counting that we are gonna get away with straight going into profit. Can you explain the narrative around liquidity rotation from gold to Bitcoin? I want to reserve that, MJ, for a dedicated video with the ratios of gold and the other assets, because it's gonna go intense and it's gonna be worth having its own video due to the extreme value of the alpha. Expectations on the 4-hour chart and chances of going to CPR support levels. I think we got a good chance, Lara, but as always, I never know what's gonna happen with the price. I just decide if based on the risk, I want some exposure to that, and I do want it. If I get the chance to enter on a long slightly below 110 from an elevated area of risk to reward, I will do it with a small position. Ashan is saying, given the current market indecision, can you recall any other similar situations in the later end of past bull markets, and how does that usually plays out, please? Ashan, I've been extensively covering that. We are pretty much going by the book into a bear market from multiple indicators. Now, as I said also earlier in the video, I never marry, not even my own models. I like them, I'm proud of them, but one day I will throw them all at their own time to the bin, right? So that descending period of bearish divergences on the weekly on Bitcoin, past performance says, yes, we are done. This is it. But I'm still looking for longs. So here I am, because there is still chances that we break the model and we do something different. After all, gold is in a huge rally still. There is a bunch of elements that could help Bitcoin still to push higher. Can you share the prompts you use on ChatGPT to get the recent news and developments affecting crypto and general markets? So this is the prompt I'm giving to ChatGPT, and I'm asking specifically for these headlines in here. For general markets, for some reason when I was dictating in English, it translated to Spanish. Can you make a summary of inflation, new jobs, jobless claims, CPI, PPI, trade war, rate cuts? Just a few pinpoints that I can show quickly in a slide to make it a summary of how macroeconomy is looking, and the rest is in English, so you can take a screenshot from there. If we go to 98K, what is the possibility of it bouncing back to all-time highs? And let's say 98K is slightly below the 50. That is something that we already did in April. So there is two scenarios in here. Either we bounce from there, which we already did very close to it with the recent week, or we go below it and we put a close below it. If you put a close below it, that will be the first time we do that in the bull cycle, and it will be reminding us this scenario in here, where after that, all you get is a dead cat bounce into the scene of the crime once the 50 is pointing down. So put it this way, if we take the same time to do something like that and this breaks, it will probably break into 70 and then come back into 95 before heading into a bear market. That is if it repeats the same thing as the previous cycle. But if you are right and we go only to 98 and we get bought up above 104, we could be in for another leg up. We just need to monitor how deep is the correction relative to the 50 weekly, just to get an idea of where we are standing once we get any of those corrections. Scenarios where the volume and momentum point to either a true head and shoulders breakdown, and this means Dalai Lama fake out pattern that some are talking about. I'm not very aware of that one. If you can provide maybe a link or something in the members chat on Patreon, Lidog, that will help me. Sam says, there is talk of a possibility of no all season this cycle, with us on the border of entering bear market if we close below weekly 50 EMA. What are your thoughts here? Are you holding any alts in spot and your exit plan? Well, my exit plan has already been executed around 80% or 90 maybe, because I hold like 3 coins, ADA, Chainlink, and another one. I got a tiny bit of Ethereum that I repurchased at 3.8. My plan is sell it good or keep it for the next cycle. And if you go with this plan and you break below here, it's very useful to add total, maybe let's add others in a new pane here. And we can see that others pretty much peak at the same time as Bitcoin. You have these moves in here where others, the market cap of others, really doesn't make it that higher than the previous high, but you get a ton of heroic coins doing their all-time highs either in this peak or in this peak here. The problem is that during this cascade of highs, you never know which coins are still due for that. The general belief is that every single coin will get its own moment to shine, and after that moment to shine, you cut the lights and you just dump it forever, because otherwise you end up holding it forever. Do yourself a favor, put Bitcoin in a chart, put others to keep an eye on how these lows are coming down, and then add new paints with additional coins that you're looking to sell, just to give you an idea of previous behavior. For example, if you add Solana in here, Solana is an early topper, right? So it tops 1 week before Bitcoin, but you're gonna find other coins that are upside down. They do a top here, and then at 48K, they do something massive, and they go to their actual all-time high. Pretty important to understand what are the odds that your coin is an early topper or a later topper. The worst scenario is that you assume that after Bitcoin top, your coin must make an all-time high. As I say, later today, we're going to have a private TA session that's in 1 hour from now. And we're going to cover Solana, Ethereum, XRP, XPL, Link, Pump, BTC, ENA, BNB, and Avalanche, which I didn't cover yesterday. On CME, we don't have any news. Tomorrow's going to be Friday. Probably we're going to get a new CME gap. We have on the 4 hour a potential layer 2 breaking out incoming, and dailies holding the support. We can see that as I'm recording the video, this is already pushing against that resistance. We got a new low in here. Let me see if it's a lower low relative to the previous range. So it's a little bit higher than this low, I will say. So it couldn't manage to get again to 109,500 for God's sake. So probably my order didn't fill again. It's alright. I hope you did fill your order, by the way. We are against resistance, so nothing is confirmed. This could still go slightly lower, but looks Algo price action concepts is already flagging it as a liquidity hunt. If we break this level, the next resistance is at 63.74, located at 117.5, in line with my expectations of going to that low-hanging fruit. Let's see if we can get there. If we get there, we complete the Adam Eve, double bottom, whatever, and that takes us into 121, or at least put that in the target. On the daily, we're bouncing still off the support of 37 RSI. We still don't come back to the previous range below 110. Many people are observing that price between 110 and 107 to decide whether it's doom or glory for the rest of the cycle. CPR, we're below it. Pivots are right there. We already test them. We've been playing with them since 10 of October. Not very difficult to go to the next level of support. But we need to remember one thing. This wick here took all the liquidity up until second support. So motivation to really go there to swipe liquidity depends on just the short-term liquidity that got forming here. We no longer have all the liquidity from July that we just swept, right? That was a big incentive to go into this liquidity. That is gone. We have new liquidity, fresh. We need to put this outside the chart, which is, by the way, very small. We just pinched 109.4, and this is on Binance. And I think my order is on Bybit, so I will have to see if I manage to fill my order. The stupid order didn't fill. We are still in the territory of the head and shoulder in here, but we still have time to recover up until Sunday above the neckline. The SOPR is putting big news. This indicator is showing us that we are approaching the top band. That means that there has been a lot of profit taking around this range of the dead cat bounce into 116,000. You can see it right in here how it approaches the first band, not as high as the second one at 1.10 that we hit in July. But too many people taking profits in the green here signifies that we are getting close to a local top. So from the point of view of this indicator, things don't look necessarily very bullish. On monthly, we are still above support. Oscillator is still saying we should be looking for longs, not for shorts. And today we have 94 being distributed on Bitcoin ETF spot, 28 in fear. you can definitely tell that the liquidity of 116 and beyond into 117 is way bigger than the local liquidity that we have managed to form so far at 109. Still, we went for that because we were very close to that. Now that I remember, my long is at 108.7, that's why it hasn't been hit yet. There is still liquidity to take here if market maker wants to do a final swipe in there. That might do or may not. You can tell now that the biggest liquidity is at 108.200. It still remains there. There is liquidity on the upside, definitely a lot from where we came from shorts, but now these longs are at risk of getting kicked out before we can go up. We have some support on fire charts at 105, and the order book remains full of bidding activity below the price up until 103. There is a ton. Resistance is 111,500 now, but there is just that level. After that, it declines sharply into 117 relative to what we have as support. Let's focus on the price action in here. We can see those orders 108, orders at 105, and another one at 100k, and then resistance 123, and an initial order at 115 trying to hold that. Again, shorts continue to put new highs in here, and longs are very calm and quiet. So we could say that all this bidding is there waiting for the price to fill those orders, but none of them have yet entered in a long. They're still kind of contributing to support, but not really executing the orders yet from the long end compared to the short that are all fully allocated. That keeps the delta today at 200k. We came down from 800k, so these moves up definitely help taking them down. We have a new shiny level here to look after in the open interest, which is 112. Tons of shorts probably enter from 112. I hope you can see it there, and price tends to go for that, so 112 could get hit very soon. And here, I want you to focus on the histogram. It's not a histogram, it's a heat map. And focus on where you can see these 4 blocks next to each other, very shiny. The first one is in here, and you get a dump. Then the second one is in here on 10th of October, and you get dead dump, the biggest liquidation event in history, not for Bitcoin, for altcoins. Yeah, but it started from an area of big support, big bidding. Then we got another one in here, and we got a mini move down. And now again, the longs are persisting, putting a lot of orders right there. Where are they placed? Well, we have 99.9 percentile, the largest one probably in the past 2 weeks, at 5% deviation. Then 85 percentile at 2, 100 percentile, that's the largest at 1% in the past 2 weeks. And 100 percentile again at 10% deviation. Maybe you may want to see it in this way where it's more clear to see. Recently, the 0 to 5 percentile went beyond my blue line, just like it did in here. That used to be a buy signal, but this turned, as I was explaining, into a sell signal because Trump tweet at a point where everybody was waiting with limit orders and they got all wiped into 101. Not saying it needs to play out in the same way, but this is an area where we cannot be naive and think, oh, there is a ton of support that always holds the price. And you can see that recently it didn't. In terms of fair value gaps, as you can see in here, we still have the same fair value gaps from yesterday on the upper end and lower end. So as I explained throughout the video, I'm looking to enter in a long. I'm gonna put a short summary in a separate video. I'm still riding my short. There is a chance that the buying wall can push the price slightly higher, and I wanna get involved in that, particularly if the 4-hour time frame explodes. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you in a few minutes in the Elite Altcoin Trader private TA. You still have time to pick some coins and to ask me questions live during the event.